Now to our guest analyst, a leading thinker who will share his assessment of some of the issues covered on the program today and beyond, including the continuing crisis in Rivers State, the protests and the presidential climb down in Kenya, and what lessons there might be for Nigerian politicians there, and the first of the 2024 US presidential debates just hours away, with Joe Biden and Donald Trump going head to head. And today, as we try to rummage through all that, I'm joined now in the studio by Arise News analyst and former chairman of the editorial board of Daily Trust newspaper, Mahmud Jega. Great to see you, Mahmud.
Thank you very much.
You've been away, so it's good to have you back.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yes.
So let's start with Rivers State. Very pointed analysis from Chief Obi Ndukwe there, who I was talking to earlier, the governor of Rivers State, pointing the finger directly at Nyesom Wike supporters, saying they tried to bomb the presidential hotel in Port Harcourt, whilst the National Assembly members were there to try and instigate a state of emergency. The governor's opponents are saying he's making it up to attract more sympathy. What are your thoughts on that?
What she said, very eloquent, measured woman, by the way. What she said was very interesting, that the explosion was supposed to have taken place in a very busy place with forex dealers near a big hotel, and not many people seem to have witnessed the explosion. Okay, it's a confusing situation. Each side was able to pin a motive on the other side. What the governor's people said made sense, that, okay, the Wike people were trying to scare away the members of the National Assembly from the presidential hotel and to instigate them to support the declaration of a state of emergency in Rivers State. On the other hand, the Wike supporters are saying that the governor's people could easily have infiltrated the peace walk and exploded some device in order to make them look like violent protesters. So the only good thing is that we hear that the man who exploded the device is in a hospital and he was under police arrest, kind of, and he survived, even though badly injured. So we expect the police to tell us within a few days exactly who was the person who sent him and what exactly his motive was. But even that, I'm not sure we are going to get, because the way things are there, everything is steeped in crazy
But the word
politics.
is murky. It's a very murky
is
situation.
the summary of it all.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So in that regard, let's leave that for the moment, because there's really nothing more that we can bring to it. But I think you've made the points very clearly there. Let's move to Kenya. William Ruto bows to pressure after those bloody protests and withdraws that controversial finance bill and announces major reforms on the back of that withdrawal. Is that a case of people power winning even after being subjected to considerable state force?
What is happening in Kenya is of concern to all Africans. Kenya is one of the most peaceful, one of the most stable countries.
Although, to be fair, they've had a lot of problems with previous elections.
They had,
a lot of people were killed.
A terrible one, I think, in 2007. Was it virtual war between the two largest ethnic groups, the Luo and the Kikuyu. So they had that, but otherwise, generally speaking, Kenya is quite peaceful and by African standards, even prosperous.
Yeah.
But we must worry, because when I was listening to the protesters in Kenya, the things they are complaining about, high living costs and many taxes, and also allegations against the leaders that they are rebuilding their palaces.
They're living large.
Living large, that it cost so many $1 million for President Ruto to visit the US in a chartered plane. You see, unfortunately, it sounds a bit like Nigeria.
I was going to say you could simply take that and transpose it to many other African countries.
Honestly. So in which case we all have to be very careful. You don't want wait until we have trouble. And in our own case, we had similar trouble only a few years ago with the End SARS protest. So it is very important to start listening to what is the feeling on the streets. You don't wait until you reach an explosion stage, which could come suddenly, like happened in Kenya. We didn't see the trouble really brewing. All we had suddenly was a terrible explosion, including the storming of Parliament and setting it on fire. And then you have this situation where, okay, the president withdrew the bill that he thought was the main trigger. But unfortunately, you know, situations like this, once they start, they assume a life of their own. And now
the kids feel empowered.
They feel empowered. They are now back on the streets today and saying, no, you have withdrawn the bill, but that's not enough. There are other demands.
But in terms of what this has forced, let me put it that way, President Ruto to do, I mean, he's proposed active engagement with young people to listen to their concerns and work out priority areas. He announced a reduction in the operational expenditure of the presidency, removed allocations for things like travel, budget, hospitality, purchase of vehicles, renovations, etc., and called for budget cuts across Parliament, the judiciary, and local governments, what they call in Kenya county governments. That is as much a reflection of the power of the people to force change as it is a listening president, is it not?
It is. The only thing is that things like this should better be done before we reach the explosion stage. Like the demonstrators on the streets of Nairobi today and even other cities, they are saying Ruto must go. Now they will not even listen to any reforms and concessions. Now they are saying Ruto must go. And don't forget, other things happen, like we have seen on CNN, you know, the police putting down the demonstrations, firing tear gas. They have arrested a lot of people. Many have died and many were injured. So the unfortunate thing is that that kind of thing is fueling the anger, even when the president is making all those concessions. That is why it is good to listen to the feelings of the people and make these changes before it reaches the explosion stage, because a stage comes when neither side is ready to listen to the other.
Absolutely. So what lessons, briefly, can Nigerian politicians and the people of this country learn from that incident? When do you reckon President Tinubu will declare cuts and austerity in his government?
First of all, he has to solve the minimum wage issue, because as far as I can see, that is the danger point now. Because
but it might help his cause if he starts cutting budgets and things in terms of the minimum wage negotiation.
What I'm saying is that if we allow a situation of the minimum wage negotiation to drag to a stage where labor resumes the general strike, that is the danger.
It's not a good point to be.
Because hoodlums could easily just say, like in Kenya, let us capitalize on that. But definitely, we should also do with some budget cuts. Nigerians are angry with the budget of the National Assembly and of the state governors and of the alleged security votes. So a lot of that, we should begin to cut them before we reach a dangerous stage.
I think a lot of people would agree with that. Let's turn to America now. Donald Trump marching ever closer to the White House. Joe Biden trying to prevent him from getting onto the lawn again. They're going head to head tonight in a debate that is well ahead of the election.
The normal
but it shows that they're trying to sort of build up the momentum towards that election. What are your expectations?
Wow, it's difficult. As you said, normally these debates do not take place until much closer to the election. But because the two candidates emerged very early in the day in this American election cycle, and also because they have been head-to-head in the polls for quite some time, usually one is just 1 or 2 points ahead and within the margin of error. So the strategists on each side are looking for a killer blow that will give them momentum, as you said. And therefore, when this early debate was suggested to them, each one thought, okay, this is an opportunity to probably land a big punch and get a jolt in the polls. But of course, it's also dangerous for each side. Donald Trump right now has a slight edge in the polls, but he is such a fellow who can easily blow everything with some comments or some gestures, even though they took some measures.
Yeah, they've taken a lot of measures.
They took a lot of measures, including
CNN
your microphone is off.
Will be muted
So
when the other person is talking, so you can't interrupt. I think that's a brilliant move.
It's a brilliant move, especially
is.
Because of his character and performance in the past. But of course, President Biden also has a lot of problems on his hand, one of which is even the appearance. Although he is just a few years older than Donald Trump, but when you see him, you know, he looks frail. He looks frail, he's walking like that, and the Trump people will try to, of course, capitalize on that. Although there are also serious policy issues of domestically, like abortion, then the immigration issue, but also serious foreign policy problems they are facing in Ukraine and in Gaza, and the future of NATO and the economy, very important. So if one of them is able to land some very punchy, thoughtful ideas about how he will tackle these issues to the satisfaction of American audiences, then he might get the flip that he is.
But you're not expecting a knockout blow?
Well, I'm not expecting one, except if Donald Trump messes up big time, which he can do.
But in terms of what we're going to see tonight, I mean, the crucial thing really, because American politics is very divided, isn't it, between right, center left, that sort of thing. People who support Donald Trump, people who support, you know, the Democrats, Biden, and so on. But it'll be decided by the undecided voters, isn't it? Those are the people they're really targeting. Exactly,
because the Trump supporters have been very, very consistent, and they are unmoved by developments, including a felony conviction. I mean, it's remarkable in the United States.
But it seems to be water off a duck's back when it concerns Donald Trump.
Honestly,
so what's the big deal, folks?
It is true. So really, as you said, the rank of the undecided voters, which is not very large, but in a close election like this, it will be decisive. So if one of them makes a very big mistake, because otherwise their policy positions are fairly well known. These are people who have been in the public eye for long. Each one of them has been president for 4 years. So it's not like they are...
they're not the new kids on the block.
They are not new kids. The biggest danger for any one of them will be to make a serious mistake. Yes.
Thank you very much indeed, Mahmud. Brilliant to talk with you. Mahmud Jega is a Rise News analyst and former chairman of the editorial board of Daily Trust newspaper. That's it for this edition of Arise Prime Time. Join us again tomorrow. From me and the entire team here in Abuja, bye-bye and thank you for watching.